Hi, I'm Gemma Lauren Krebs, author of the Locked series, here today to read you another chapter of my first book, Nothing Lost, which is available on Amazon.com right now if you're interested. Otherwise, you can keep following along as I read you the chapters. Also follow me at Gemma Lauren Krebs on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and at the Locked series for more information and news on book 2 as it comes out. So let's get into chapter 7 of Nothing Lost. There it is. Chapter 7, Extinguish. A plate of steaming wrenberry tarts sat alone. They leaked shining poppy-colored fruit from between flaky pastry. I swallowed so my mouth would stop watering. Sticking my head through the doorway from the pantry to the kitchen and seeing no one, I shuffled quickly to the woven table where they lay. 4 were mine in a mere moment. Though I hissed at the oven tart's heat bled into my fingers, high-pitched laughter came from the direction of the kitchen gardens, and I tucked my plunder closer to my chest, rushing back to the pantry and through the outer door to the outside of the palace. Stars still hung in the sky. There was only a faint tinge of light from the coming sunrise. I breathed in the slightly cool air and the fresh smell of sleeping plants. As I took a bite of pastry, I delighted in the tart stickiness. There was a large rock ahead of me, sitting amongst low, fragrant bushes. I let myself down onto it and finished my breakfast, saving 2 of the pastries for Ch.7. The world around me was silent, but for the soft brush of wind against leaves. I closed my eyes and began to focus on my breath. Today I wanted to be prepared. If I was going to help Ch.7 calm his mind, mine needed to be tranquil. I sat still and allowed the sound of the wind, the smell of our island, and the lingering taste of sweetened wrenberries to fill me. For the first time in days, I could feel a glimmer of true calm. I didn't stay for more than a quarter of an hour, but it was enough. The sun would be here soon. Rising from the stone as quietly as possible so as not to disturb my calm, I grabbed the remaining pastries and went to the ruins. There wasn't a lot left of the ruins, and their story had been lost to the ages. They stood, made of chalky white stone, weathered and broken. There might have been worn decoration on them, but it was too far gone to make out. When I got to the crumbling stones, Ch.7 was already there, sitting on a tall piece with his legs dangling over the side. "Ready for another day of training," he said as I came close. His voice sounded like a croak. I gave him a hesitant grin back. Something seemed strange. "All right, well, come down here and we'll get started." He leapt down from the pale stone and sat next to me on a broken platform that could have once been a giant pillar as easily as a table. I showed him how to cross his legs properly, with feet on top. Our combat training always included a lot of stretching exercises, so he didn't have any trouble getting into position. "This morning I'll show you the proper way we meditate." A slight breeze rose between us. When excessive noise clouds our minds, it helps to calm it through meditation. I rested my hands on my knees. Half of meditation is getting the proper mindset, which is what the candle exercise is for. But we'll learn the other half of what you'll need today. Is there really much to learn? Can't we just continue on with the candle exercise? Ch.7 asked it nicely, but still seemed agitated. "Ch.7, were you trying to put out the candle on your own last night?" That seemed the most obvious explanation for his tiredness and irritability. He didn't meet my eyes, but said, "I thought I might get farther if I practiced more." And I suppose that didn't help? I asked. He shook his head tensely. I sighed, smiling. I know you just want to learn it, and you will, but first you need to quiet your mind. I think what I'm going to show you will help. I sat up straight. There's a bit more than you may think to meditation, and it will enhance all work you do with the garden. Jevin let out a terse breath. I understand. Sorry, everything is just taking so long. He yawned. I wondered if this type of training was more difficult to learn for Jevin at the age of 18 than it had been for me as a child. I didn't remember being so frustrated. If we continued, though, I knew Jevin would succeed. Here's something that should help you feel a little better. I reached behind me and took out the wrenberry pastries, handing them to Jevin, whose eyes seemed touched with a bit of a smile at this. Breakfast. I placed the tarts into his hands and he started eating them, cheering up as he devoured them. He finished, not 5 minutes later, licking his fingers with enjoyment. Good? Yes, he acknowledged. He still looked quite weary. Then let's begin. First, close your eyes. He did. Let your breath begin to slow and focus on how it fills you and then empties you. Don't force it in and out. Simply notice it. Just do this for a few moments. We did that. Then I began again. Now take several deep breaths in and out. In and out. After doing that a few times, I continued. Now, this exercise is also needed to help you connect to the garden and the great tree herself. Jevin's eyes opened just a little. Herself? Yes, the tree is female, and we always refer to her that way. I smiled a little. Now close your eyes. He did, and I continued. Picture the garden. It doesn't matter that you haven't seen it for yourself yet. Just let an image of what it may look like come to you. I gave him a couple minutes to build it in his mind. Can you see the great tree? I still have no idea what the tree is supposed to look like. That's why this practice can be fun before you ever enter the garden. The tree can look however you wish it to. Just let a picture of her grow in your mind without judging it. He still didn't look quite convinced, but after a moment he relented. All right, I've got it. What did Jevin's version of the tree look like? Mine had been far off. I thought there would be more color, and of course I'd also pictured it larger than it was. How would Jevin react to the secret of the tree? Good. Keep breathing deeply and walk over to the tree, and put your hand on her, closing your eyes. Feel the water she is drinking flow up through her. See if you can feel any consciousness within her. I allowed Jevin to stay with those thoughts. Now, sit down with your back to her and try to connect. Observe the garden as she does. View the other plants as she would. I heard him exhale a long breath. Good. We'll sit here for a little while. If your thoughts drift from the scene of the garden, gently bring them back. We sat there in silence for half an hour. I let myself slip into the garden mindset and connected to the tree and the garden myself. I heard Jevin shift quite a few times during our meditation. I wondered if he opened his eyes, peeking at all. I had nearly the whole time during my first meditation. I kept my eyes resolutely closed. When enough time had passed, I told Jevin to come back. Now, let the garden go and return to yourself. Begin moving your fingers and feet. Open your eyes when you're ready. I opened my own. Jevin stared back, his gray eyes thoughtful. So, I said, what do you think? Did you see anything interesting? He shrugged. I don't think so. I'm not sure I did it right. There's no way to do it wrong. Your connection to the garden will get clearer with time, I promise. I took a deep breath. Do you feel calmer? Ch.7 nodded, his shoulders lowered as he seemed to relax even more. The sun was up now. The ruins overlooked a small meadow filled with yellow grass and, beyond that, the sharp blue line of the ocean touching the sky. Dim, dusk-purple flowers swayed in the breezes of the meadow. They hadn't been here when I'd come a few weeks ago. I didn't know how to proceed next, but the world was waking up and the sun warmed us. Ch.7's eyes were closed again. He seemed to be drinking in the day, though it was entirely possible he was just exhausted. He'd worked so hard to put out the candle, even attempting to go about it on his own. I looked around. Summer seemed eager. On the air was the fragrance of drying grass, the hum of insects, and the sound of wind through ruined stone. Ch.7, I said, suddenly having a thought. He kept his eyes closed and made a small noise of query. I went on. Keep your eyes closed. Don't worry about what you're thinking. Just stay calm. I want you to fully embody yourself. Instead of being the tree, be you now. Try to reach out and connect to the world around you as yourself. Don't judge it, just notice. He took a deep breath and simply nodded. I closed my own eyes and let myself fall into a deep meditation, hardly aware of the stone supporting me after only a few breaths. I could feel the world around me, but as I did, I felt myself melding with it. For the briefest time, I was not separate from my environment. I was the laughing breeze, the thirsty grass, the flustered insects, the rushing water, the joyous sun, and it was all me. The feeling faded quickly. I thought I should come back to myself. I placed a hand on Ch.7's shoulder to rouse him, and he slowly opened his eyes. They went wide. I think I might have felt it that time. The thing I'm supposed to feel. Almost an emptiness, but powerful. I grinned. Did you? I mean, there's nothing you have to feel. The mindset simply allows you to connect with yourself. Do you think it worked? It might have. Can we go back and practice putting out the candles in one of our rooms? Asked Ch.7. I feel a bit stuffy in the tower room. A familiar area might help. I nodded. We can go to my room. Let's do that, he agreed eagerly. We started picking our way between the large pieces of rubble at the edge of the ruins, heading back to the palace. Though I felt at peace, more than I had since the day I'd been found out, I felt something strange as I left the ruins, almost as if the ancient stones themselves watched us leave. Back in my room with the candles set up, Ch.7 was having trouble again, his teeth clenched in concentration. Why can't I do it? He waved his hand at the candle frantically. I grabbed his hand and held it still. He looked up at me, eyes wide and questioning. Ch.7, you can do it. Just use what you learned. Imagine yourself back at the ruins and remember what you felt. I let go of his hand. I'll try. He seemed to retreat. He closed his eyes and breathed slowly on his own, deeply settling. After a moment, he nodded, opened his eyes, and extended his hand once more, but gently this time. Moving his hand in a more relaxed way than I'd ever seen him try before, it took Ch.7 merely 10 tries before he finally dispelled the flame. He moved his hand downward and the flame was gone in one soft sputter. Ch.7 still held his hand where it had stopped, his eyes glazed as if he couldn't believe it went out and perhaps worried that if he moved his hand the flame would jump back to life. I did it. He looked up at me, meeting eyes. Shay, I felt it, or didn't feel it. It was as if, for the moment the flame went out, I wasn't thinking anything at all, and I just let it happen. My smile was cheek to cheek. That was great! I knew you could! I was so glad it had worked. Now, I lit the tinder stick from my own candle and replaced Jevon's flame. Do it again. Jevon lowered his hand finally and brought it back to rub his forehead, laughing heartily. So that was chapter 7. Hope you guys are enjoying the book so far. Have a great day. Bye.